So let's say we have a code pipeline. So what all components do we have in code pipeline? Come on, you have to tell me. What all components we have learned till date?
Sir,
Come on,
code
everyone.
build, code deploy,
You have to tell in the sequence, right? What will
code
be the
commit,
sequence? Okay, so the first is, yes, very good. First is code commit. First is code commit. Correct? Then what is next? What is
code build,
next?
sir.
Code build, right? Next is code build. After that, what do we have?
Code deploy.
Then we have code deploy. Now let's say developer has Git installed on this on his laptop. Let's say this is a developer, right? And he is developing some code on his laptop. Sorry. So he is writing his code on this laptop. And let's say on this laptop he has installed Git. What all commands he will use to put the code on Git commit? If he need to do something with the help of commands, what he will do? Come on, you have learned everything. What he will do? Come on, everyone.
Can you repeat
You
again,
can.
sir?
I'm just talking about Git. What the developer will do. So Git push, right? So the
Yes,
developer will push the code to the code commit, right?
or in this case, GitHub.
Yeah. In suppose code commit we are not using because it is obsolete, so we can push it to GitHub. Correct?
Yes,
So you will do a git push, right? This will push the code. Now, when the developer has pushed the code, right? So code commit has received it, right? Now, in your code commit or in this entire process, three steps are majorly there, right? Whenever you talk about, especially those are happening at the build level as well as deploy level, right? So now you have to integrate everything, whatever we have discussed, right? So the first thing, if you talk about the major steps which are happening, those major steps are, let's say, first is when you are, let's say, using a code pipeline and you have to build something, right? So what you will need, you will build a Docker image, correct? Second thing, you will need a ECS cluster or a ECS task definition which you need to write, and that is a place where you will doing the entire revision. So create a new ECS task definition definition revision, right? And the third part is, yes, create app spec dot yaml, which let's say you can refer to new image, right? The new path, new image that will trigger the build that okay, this is the upgraded version, right? So that is something you will be doing. So for executing those tasks, you will majorly see, let's say we move this to a different place. Let's move it down. So let's say you have this pipeline. The major thing when you push the image, where you will push the image, the Docker image, which service do you use in AWS Cloud? You have learned that service as well. What is that service which you use for pushing the code?
ECR.
ECR. Very good. Who was it? Who gave the answer?
Sandeep sir.
Sandeep. Very good, Sandeep. So the service which you use in AWS is your ECR offering. Let's say ECR. AWS ECR. And when you're using AWS ECR, which means you will be pushing the code, sorry, pushing the image, push Docker image, right? You push the Docker image into AWS ECR. ECR is Elastic Container Registry. I don't think I need to write, right? Everyone is aware what is ECR,
Yes, sir.
right? Now, when the image you already have the container, so it is easy to run a ECS task. When you are learning the ECS service, ECS is a container offering or a container services on which you define the task or the images which you need to run. So let's say this is a ECS task, ECS task, correct? Definition which you will define, and you can, let's say, put the service, or the service you will be using is your ECS. So the question from Janvi is that can we use Docker Hub? So Docker Hub, Janvi, you will use for pulling the image, right? Docker Hub is a place. Docker Hub is a place where all images are kept. All images are kept. So usually what you do, you pull image from Docker Hub. Pull image from Docker Hub, right? But now when you are using a container, that is your offering which you use for your organization. So you will be doing a lot of customization. So when you push this Docker image, you do a lot of things. So you will prefer using an internal offering, not something which is external to your environment. So ECR is an internal service which you can connect privately. But for Docker Hub, your cluster should have internet access. Whereas although your pipeline may not require open internet access. So why to go to internet and open yourself to risk, right? So it's better that you use your AWS ECR which can be accessed internally. Make sense, Janvi? Correct? Fair enough. So you have this task, and now what you will be doing, because you are using or you are putting the code and everything. So there is a app spec.yaml file is also there. So with the build offering in the build repo, you will also keep one file right? You will put one file, and that file is going to where? That file is going to, let's say, your S3 bucket, right? It will go to your S3 bucket and it will deploy everything. Now, when you are deploying this onto the S3 bucket, so basically what you're doing for you, the crucial part which is needed by the code deploy is which file? That is the app spec.yaml file is there, right? Which will be finally used by whom? That will be used by this, correct? That will be used by this code deploy, right? Rest of these actions are taken care by whom? That are taken care by this code build offering. But the output of the build will be utilized by the code deploy service, and who will deploy and shift the traffic, right? Everyone notice this, it will not just deploy the offering, but it is his responsibility to deploy and shift the traffic. So let's say this is an ECS cluster which may be already running. This is, let's say, your ECS cluster is there, right? ECS, correct? This ECS cluster is there, and let's say you have, these are your ECS tasks which are running. These are your ECS tasks, correct? These are the ECS tasks, but these are older tasks. These are old tasks, right? Which are running, and on these services, you will also run new tasks. So this is, let's say, your new. This is your. This is new ECS. New ECS task which is there, right, everyone? So it is your responsibility that you deploy and also you shift traffic. So this was the old cluster on which you ran new task. Then you finally move the traffic and then decommission the old one. So Unsa, the steps which we are discussing over here, where we discuss about all the movements of the traffic from various series, right? So you see, so before blocking traffic, after blocking traffic, application will stop. You will download the bundle. You will install. After install, these are various stages which will come, right? So the main purpose or main agenda is what we were doing as a part of this entire activity, which we have seen now, right? So at various stages, various level, this will come. So you will have appspec.yaml file in which you can clearly define. So what your appspec.yaml mainly carry, just like you have a previous file in that you will define version. If you see appspec.yaml, appspec.yaml is there. Now on this, let's say you will be deploying version 0.0, right? Usually for app spec file, the just like in that you have version 0.2 when you were defining that other file, build spec.yaml. There was version was 0.2, but here the version is 0.0, right? You will define, let's say, parameters as resources, correct? That okay, I have to define resources in which these resources will be pointing towards that okay, on which will be your target service on which you will deploy the offering. So for us, the target, since we are using ECS, our target service will be target service colon. It will be something like, let's say, type and your AWS ECS colon service, right? This is how you define syntax of an ARN or a service which you're using, right? And then you will further define what are the properties, just like you have defined pipe types. Similarly, there will be properties that, okay, these are the properties I'm defining. Then further, you will define the task definition, right? You will define the task definition which is there. After that, in case if there is any kind of load balancer is being used, then you will use the load balancer as well, correct? You will use a load balancer as well. Then you are using some kind of container port, let's say container, if I'm deploying on a specific region. So let's say container name will be there. Or if you are using any kind of container, any specific port, so you define the container port as well. So these things you will know when you keep on deploying the services, that okay, when I'm running container, these are the parameters will come which will come into picture. Make sense, everyone? Anyone who has any question queries? All good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you have any question queries, please ask now.
So in the current case,
All good,
like
everyone?
the program in which you
Is there anyone who is asking questions? Your voice is not coming. Who is it? Also, your voice is not audible. I'm not able to hear you. Can you come closer to the mic?
it's audible now.
You are still far. Is it for me only, or is it for everyone?
Not able to hear.
Not able to hear, right? I think she is rejoining. Let's wait for a while. Okay, while she is joining, let's say I showed you this file for ECS, right? Suppose you have to create a same app spec .yaml file for Lambda. Let's say this time your deployment you are doing on the Lambda offering. So who will tell me what will be the parameters? If you want to see the description, you can see this as well. But what will the parameters which we will be defining for Lambda? Come on, everyone. Who will answer this? Come on, take your time. If we are writing the appspec.yaml file for Lambda, come on, everyone, answer. How you will be defining the file for if I'm writing the same abstract.yaml for Lambda service. ECS you have seen, right? This is how we are writing for an ECS offering. But suppose if I want to write it for Lambda offering, how we will write? Come on, everyone.
So in the place of ECS, we can write it as like, you know.
Yes. Answer, please go ahead.
So like in place of AWS ECS, we can write it as like AWS Lambda, then
right? So the
name,
basic thing first which will come is
then the
version, right?
properties.
So ideally everything will come same. Let's say first we will write version, which is let's say version
Yes.
colon 0.0, right? Version will remain same, version colon. And if you go to the resources, then you will be defining the resources. And in then resources, let's say you will define the name of the object, let's say my lambda function, right? My lambda function colon, and then you will give the type, right? And type will be colon AWS colon lambda colon function. Whenever you see the ARN of the service of lambda, it is where you see ECS, it will come lambda, and lambda is a trigger, right? So it will be used as a function. So you will not write service, you will use function, correct? Right? After that, there will be properties which you will be defining, correct? And further, you will define, let's say your name, my lambda function, correct? And alias, let's say my lambda function alias, correct? And let's say the previous version or the current version you will define of the lambda function. Current version is colon 1, and the target version is version 2. Target version is 2, which is there, right? Target version is equal to 2, which you will be using. Unsa, right? I hope I'm audible to everyone, right? I'm audible, everyone? Okay. So is it clear when you write the same file for abstract.yaml? For you, the functional or the function alias will be on the basis of the versions, right? You have to clear with the parameters which are defined as a part of the abstract.yaml. So if you have a lambda and code deploy, these things you have to means not memorize but kind of create as a concept. Let's say when you're using lambda and code deploy, correct? So when you use a lambda and code deploy, the first thing is you will have a name, which is a mandatory parameter. So I will write it over here. This is required, correct? So when you say name, this is the name of the lambda function to deploy. So name is name of the lambda function to deploy, right? This is the name. So first parameter is what? Name. Now always we have discussed that there should be an alias, right? Let me just write it again. Deploy, and this is your alias. This is also a required field for you. So what is the alias? That is the name of the alias of the lambda function. So this is the alias is what which we have mentioned over here, right? So the of the alias, name of the alias to the lambda function, correct? Then after that, within lambda when you're working, so the two major important factors are one is the current version, right? Which is also a required field, correct? And the target version, that is also a required field. So just like I have created these parameters, similarly, you should be clear that what is the current version. Current version is the version of the Lambda function traffic currently points to, right? Current version is version of Lambda function where traffic currently points to, right? So this is something which you can change as per your understanding. And the target version is the version of the Lambda function traffic is shifted to, right? So this is everything same, but this is the place where the traffic is shifted to. Traffic is shifted to, right? So that is happening over here. Make sense, everyone? How you define this file over here? See, these are the major things which you will be doing via code, right? Rest of the things you can do via portal. This is the only place where the code is coming in picture. So I want this to be clear. Rest of the things are easy step-by-step mechanism. Are we clear on this? How we creating this abstract.yaml file? What do you think? Is it clear? Abstract.yaml file?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, okay, so then who will explain me? Suppose this stage which we created for the ECS cluster, right? This setup we create for the ECS cluster, right? Let's copy this. Let's do it for the Lambda. Let's keep it here only. Now you all tell me that suppose if we are doing the same thing over here, but now this time I want ECS, right? Sorry, not ECS. I want to use, let's say, Lambda. So what will happen? How things will change? Let me give you some hint. Let's say this part is gone, right? So what all components will come over here? And let's say uh, what else? What else? Now if you're not using ECS, so this is gone, right? This is one. So according to you, what will come? Come on, think everyone. What will come?
Lambda function, the current version of the target version, the deploy
Very
and
good.
shift traffic.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So the only thing which will come is the Lambda function. We don't need to push image in the ECR. So this is also gone. Very good, Dhanush. Correct? So this is the place which is your Lambda function. This is the Lambda function. And this Lambda function you're using. And this is, let's say, some version or some XYZ version which you're using. Correct? So this is your version, initial version, which is there, Lambda function. Correct? But if you see or if you notice, the one part which is there, just give me a moment. This is the Lambda function in which this is not the older version which is there, right? This is the place where you deploy the new version. Here the things are a bit different. Here in this case, you will deploy a new version because the older version is already running and this is a function, right? So this Lambda version will be not version 1, but this is version 2 because you are only changing from one version to the other. This is all serverless offering. So you will create a new version, you will deploy a new version, and this app spec.yaml which you're creating, right? This will have a code deploy, and this is just responsible to deploy on the alias, right? So this was just a normal alias deploy, right? So this will be deploy on alias, right? This will deploy on alias and will shift the traffic to where? Shift the traffic to the Lambda function, right? So alias is a resource. Just like you have an alias in your organization for your team over the mail. So it's a alias is a, let's say, pointer value, or a pointer which is a AWS specific resource or service on which you shift the traffic, right? So deploy on the alias and shift the traffic. That is what you're doing. And that everything is present as a part of this abstract.yaml file. And what is that file? This is the file which we discussed over here. This is the file. So whatever you see over here in this abstract.yaml, this is this content. That okay, my function is this, my alias is this, current version was this, and the target version is this. So you deploy the new target version, and then finally you move the traffic. So Lambda function is like a function. So you don't have to push the image like ECR or run any compute, right? ECS and the VM options are moreover similar, but in Lambda it is a bit different. Correct, everyone? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right? And you have to relate it with the simple deployment of the code deployment of the Lambda offering, right? So if you are using a Lambda offering, and most of the time you will see the pipeline worked for Lambda, right? Because as soon as you move towards the, let's say, serverless offering, this becomes very what we call difficult in terms of deployment. Sorry, easy in terms of deployment, because we are using more of a serverless offering and there is lesser hassle to manage. So if you have a code deploy, right? And this code deploy is responsibility is to deploy the Lambda function. Let's say this is the place. The first thing you will be doing is deploy the Lambda function. This is your Lambda function, correct? This is your Lambda function which is there. So when you have this Lambda function, you're using the main thing or the main option, which is that this is something which is a production alias. This Lambda function which you see, this is a production alias or prod alias, right? Now this prod alias, when you really plan to shift the traffic, so obviously this alias is what? Alias is a pointer that okay, I will point to the alias, which means whatever is sitting inside the alias. Let's say inside this alias is version 1 or pointing towards version 1. So the traffic is going to version 1. If in this alias version 2 is sitting, the traffic is going to version 2. I know this, no one asked that why are we using alias? It's like a pointer, right? Just like, let's say, how to say, uh, you are, let's say, mm, pointing. This is the, let's say, mm, okay, let's say this is a time machine, correct? You want to travel somewhere. This time machine is currently, you have been pointed toward this block. You don't know where it is taking, right? But inside, let's say you have mentioned Germany. So what will happen? Since you are pointed to the time machine A, it is going to Germany. As soon as you change the inside of this to, let's say, India, so you are still pointing towards time machine A only. But this is taking to where? To the India region. So similarly, you are pointing towards the alias. But which version towards this alias is pointing, you don't know, right? You don't know that. Let me just delete this. So if you come to this, you have, let's say, two offerings. This is my Lambda function. This is my Lambda Lambda function, and this is your version 1, and this is your Lambda version 2, right? Or Lambda function with version 2. So here you have, let's say, version 1 running. Here you have version 2 running. And what did we talked about shifting of the traffic? So this is 100% traffic is going over here. From that we moved X percent, and this is X percent. Sooner with time, what will happen? Slowly you will migrate the deployment from blue to green. So let's say this is your blue deployment and this is your green deployment. This is your green. So you can shift the traffic as well. So only blue-green deployments are supported in Lambda, right? Always make sure only blue-green deployment are supported for Lambda, correct? So you should be clear with that. So whether you are doing the canary deployment, linear, or you're doing all at once, right? So either you do 10% every 1 minute or 10% every 2, 3, 10 minutes, or you built a canary deployment where 0%, or sorry, 10% in 5 minutes, or 10% in 10 minutes, 10% 15 minutes, 10% 30 minutes. Linear and canary deployments, you are clear, right? Linear and canary deployments, you are clear, or you can do deploy or make the deployment all at once. So it is your choice what you are doing, correct? So that canary and linear part will be always there, but it will only support blue-green deployment. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes,
So
sir.
so the question from Janvi is, because it's a function, we don't need to push. Yes, see, whenever you have a function, your function will be ready, or that content you will have as a part of the build file, code build file. Later on, your app spec is only responsible for the deployment and cutting off over of the traffic. But since it is a Lambda function and Lambda only works on the basis of the trigger, the code and everything will be there. Now your responsibility is to point towards the version which you are using. Correct? Your responsibility is to point towards the version which you are using. Right, everyone? Make sense? Correct? And later on, so this deployment supported for this, but you have to make sure that rest of the deployments, whether it is canary or linear or all at once, that part will remain same, because that is a time based offering, right, which you're doing. That is a time based offering which you're doing. So if you go to the portal, and on this portal, let's say you have let's go to Amazon. Let me just refresh this. Just give me a moment, let me just re-log in into this. Let me just delete this as well, otherwise it will keep on running. So this will go good. Okay, this is not important for us. Let's close everything which is there. Let's, for us, the important part is the your AWS portal. Okay, it is logged in. Let's go to code deploy. And remember, we have deployed code deploy for all three of them, right? And let's go to deployment groups. code deploy applications. We have three applications, right, for Lambda. Let's go to Lambda. And here we'll go to the deployment group. And in the deployment group, and here this is the name in everything which we'll do. If you're using Lambda, see this is Lambda at once, linear and canary deployment. Rest of the deployment is same like this, right? So you can shift the traffic accordingly in the blue-green deployment. Make sense, everyone? How this is working,
Yes, sir.
right? Now, if we are doing this deployment configuration, right? You have triggers, you have alarms, you have rollback options as well. So rollback, everyone is aware, right? Which you are using. But what is the how we are doing this? So the usage option is very much clear that rollback when a deployment fails and rollback when alarm thresholds are met, right? So these are most of the things which are manually driven, right? Or you can go and disable the rollbacks as well. That in case if you are not using any kind of rollback scenarios which are there.